Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we have a brand new tier 10 cruiser to look at. The Monmouth is finally out of development. The ship has been tested for years now, up to 3 years ago, something like that. It's been a bit of a journey for this thing, but it's finally being released. And you can buy it. There's good news. Direct purchase. I know, the bar is so low these days. But this ship will be available for direct purchase. No gambling, no wishing wharf. Although you can if you want to. They, of course, have to have some kind of event with it. But that doesn't matter. If you want it, it's available in the armory for 34,950 doubloons, which is a lot of money, okay? It is not cheap. It's a tier 10 premium after all. But at least it's not the uncertainty of a gambling event. On to the ship though. Is it worth picking up? Well, it's AP only. This ship may remind you of another ship in the game already. Gibraltar also has this pretty much identical hull, pretty much identical guns here. Although the main difference in the hull design, I guess, is the opening for torpedoes. You do at least get some 10-kilometer torpedoes that do some okay damage. But it's easier to actually just talk about the differences between Gibraltar and Monmouth rather than the similarities, because the list is just shorter. If you've played Gibraltar, you already know how this thing is going to handle. You already know its concealment. You already know the downside of these turret firing angles, which I will talk more specifically about. The key is the main guns are different. You have more range base. You have 19.8 kilometers. Very comfortable, up from 16.9 on Gibraltar. But Gibraltar gets a much faster reload. So that one has a 13.5 second reload. We have a 15.5 second reload. Although that extra range means we get to take reload mod, where Gibraltar might take range mod to get similar range to what we have. It's a bit of a strange combination there, but the other consideration to make is our AP shells are different. We have a little bit more alpha damage, 5,850, which is 100 more alpha damage up from Gibraltar. But the key is going to be your flight time. You have much faster shells here, allowing you at 15 kilometers to have an 8.2 second flight time compared to Gibraltar's 9.7 seconds. So it's a lot easier to lead these guns. Consequently, we also have better pen on these guns. Quite a bit. At 15 kilometers, it's essentially 100 millimeters better. 209 on Gibraltar versus 308 millimeters of pen on Monmouth. So much better at dealing with heavy cruisers, but more importantly, some battleships even. You can start to citadel at these closer ranges. They both have improved pen angles, although not quite so much on the Monmouth here relative to Gibraltar. 60 degrees up to 68 degrees is our ricochet angles, where Gibraltar gets 60 but also up to 75. So a little bit better there on Gibraltar, but still 60 to 68 is incredible, and Monmouth will not have any issues. Even against angled targets, it's going to do incredible damage. This AP only is a bit of a downside usually, but when you have pen angles like this, it's not so bad. I should mention the fuse thresholds as well. It's one of the things Gibraltar does very well, is actually dealing full pen damage to destroyers. It absolutely crushes DDs thanks to its 12 millimeter fusing threshold, as well as a fuse time of 0.005 seconds. Very good for destroyers. A little bit less good at citadeling larger ships. Monmouth is a bit of the opposite. We have a 25 millimeter arming threshold, which often means we're not going to be arming on destroyers, so overpens are to be expected. And our fuse time is 0.033, which is a standard AP arming threshold, or the fuse time. So better against heavier armored ships, but worse against those lightly armored light cruisers, DDs, that kind of thing. Although these AP shells do absolutely wonderful against enemy cruisers. Very good. Even at these longer ranges, it's still very easy to lead these guns. But we gotta talk about these atrocious firing angles. The guns are incredible, but you gotta give a ton of broadside to actually use them. When you're in a pushing position, you can get 37-degree firing angles forward, which is okay, but it is not amazing considering the armor and the citadel that we have on this ship, which I will definitely show you guys at the end of this video. The more concerning angle, though, is our kiting firing angles. They are 45 degrees, feeling a little bit like a GK out here. This is difficult, although GK has bad firing angles when it's pushing. So a bit of the opposite. in that case. But 45 degrees kiting means we got to be very careful in situations like this where things are good. We're catching enemy broadsides, we're on a flank. Even at longer ranges, our AP is going to do some very good damage. But if a battleship looks our way, 45 degrees is nowhere near enough to deal with incoming battleship shells. You will get citadeled and it will hurt. Fortunately, this ship has some very nice healing characteristics. You probably have already seen that we have a super heal here, which is really nice to have. But also, we heal back 50% of citadel damage rather than the 33% we see on Gibraltar. So a nice bonus there. We have a better heal and it heals back more HP. That is good to have. We only get 2 of those heals base though, where Gibraltar gets 3 standard heals. The normal 14% repair, where we get 40% repairs here with these super heals. It is a much better heal. But Gibraltar gets a smoke, where Monmouth does not. They both get a hydro, and I guess Monmouth has the option to slot a defensive fire, but given how AA works these days, it's really not worth going for. You just gotta suffer through it when the carrier targets you. I'm not gonna go into a rant. We've all heard that a million times before, but that is something you should definitely be aware of. It's a big target. It's not particularly well armored, so you will take a lot of damage from those incoming airstrikes. And, well, defensive fire being mostly base. Here I am going into a rant again, but let's talk about the carrier rework potentially, because if you watch this video in the future, maybe that's gone through and they've removed flak bursts, which is your main damage against carriers and the main thing defensive fire buffs. So that could be a little bit tricky to deal with. Anyways, on to this game. We have not done a ton of damage yet, but that will change rather quickly here. Like any cruiser, we're much better in the late game. We're so much better when there's less crossfires, where we can push aggressively, use our HP pool to apply pressure to the enemy team, and hopefully come back and make this game a little bit closer, as we are currently losing this one. Rhode Island pushing in, very scary guns for a cruiser, less so for a battleship, but he definitely has the pen to get through and citadel us. But you're going to notice our AP is incredibly consistent against the upper belt superstructures of a lot of these battleships here. It's not HE, so you're not HE farming the battleships down, but if they give you even a little bit of broadside, you're going to do incredible damage. Here I miss aim. It may not look like it, but given the aim bugs in this client, the shells go short. When people are slowing down like that, when they're turning at all, even a little bit, you got to aim incredibly. It's just not intuitive at all. There's aim bugs all over the place in this game around islands, but really when people are doing any sort of maneuvering, it's mostly the aim assist that is trying to help you hit your target, but in actuality, it actually just makes it so much worse. I wish Wargaming would fix that bug, but it's been in the game for years now, so running out of hope there when it comes to fixing the bug. There it is, the Citadel. Even though I'm trying to angle, yeah, it is quite difficult. Speaking of the armor too and getting citadeled, it's a 25 mil bow and stern, not even 27. So you will be worried about enemy battleship fire. Maybe not a Rhode Island so much, but certainly most of the battleships you're going to be facing will be able to overmatch through your bow or your stern. It is going to be a squishy ship. Yes, we have a lot of HP. Yes, we have a lot of healing, but it will be a bit squishy. But the AP was really nice to use. I was pleasantly surprised, actually. I was so much surprised that I kind of want to go back and play some more Gibraltar. I think the last time I played it was a ship request or something like that, which is just live games where I get what I get. And I don't think I had a particularly good experience, but I was probably didn't give it enough time. And Monmouth was pretty solid to play. And given that I'm looking at the stats here between the two ships, having that extra ability to smash destroyers yet with that lowered fuse time, Gibraltar could be kind of interesting. I might have to play that sometime soon. Let me know if you'd like to see that, and I'll try to get a video out at some point. I do need to play it more, though, than just a few games like I do for those ship requests. Nice consistent citadels here in on this Buffalo, and already up to 180,000 damage. And we're still not winning this game, but we're looking a lot better, especially because there's cruisers left. At this point, Monmouth starts to feel very, very powerful. A ship like this one loves going after cruisers. Yes, we can do good damage into the upper belts, but this thing will be amazing against cruisers. I should talk about this as well relative to other tier 10 ships, maybe not just Gibraltar, but as we take a devastating strike on that Ochakov. Yeah, this AP is very, very nice. You get 12 guns too. It feels very, very consistent here. Another Citadel. Yeah, it's starting to ramp up here. You love to see it. As for our AP DPM, since we are a cruiser, it is more about alpha damage when you're looking at AP, of course, but still, we should talk a little bit about DPM. It is not the best. It's like 30th best of all tier 10 cruisers, but that includes a lot of the light cruisers, which are very, very much not going to be getting dev strikes with their AP at these longer ranges. So even though the DPM doesn't look that amazing, I found the damage output to be rather good. And just the consistency, the comfort level of having this over 19 kilometers of range was really, really nice. The turret traverse wasn't too bad either. Another triple Citadel on that G-Dan. Yeah, a consistent AP into broadside ships. You know I'm gonna have a good time with that, right? I'm pretty consistent at this point. You guys know what I like in this game. Yeah, it's a pretty good time. It's just the dealing with these firing angles, man. It is so difficult on a ship like this. But I guess that's what our super heal that heals back 50% of our Citadel damage is for. But 34,950 doubloons, that's a lot of money. And is this a very unique play style? Perhaps, but you can also play some of the heavy cruisers. If you're looking for something that consistently smashes broadsides, you can still get away with playing things like, I don't know, like Petro. You could play Marseille, although I don't find Marseille that particularly consistent. But there's tech tree ships that you can play that are really, really powerful at dealing with broadside cruisers and that feel similar to this, especially in the late game like this, where we're starting to get down to the wire. We love close matches like this one, by the way. Always good to see a close game in World of Warships. And a lot of those heavy cruisers, battle cruisers even, will fill this role. But we do get cruiser dispersion. That is something I do want to make very clear here, is that Monmouth doesn't have to worry about battle cruiser dispersion. It is normal cruiser dispersion, which is very, very nice. Battle cruiser dispersion is noticeably worse. I noticed it a lot, and one of the main reasons I'm not as big a fan is some of those other battle cruisers and that have large guns, which do really deal a lot of Citadel damage to enemy cruisers. Just that inconsistency there, where Monmouth has those really nice cruiser accuracy. Torpedo-wise, I don't think they're going to be that useful outside of closer range engagements. Given that this ship does not have a lot of utility, it's not like you're a radar cruiser, you will be wanting to use your DPM to impact the game, so I don't think this is a scenario where you're often getting in range to torpedo. It's nice to be able to single launch them, but they do go 10 kilometers, and they do have 16,000 alpha damage, 16,767 alpha damage. So not too bad. And you've probably seen them on British ships before. They're kind of standard high-tier British torpedoes at this point. Unfortunately, we are going to go down here. Not quite able to find the blind fires in on this G-Nan, so we're going to have to end this one off with 280,000 damage. Still a really good result and a close game, man. I had so much fun here. Obviously, would have loved to clutch out a win here, but I gotta say, man, these close games like this one here are just the best. This is the best part of World of Warships, in my opinion. If we can ignore that the carrier was in this one and hovering around all the time. But just the close game where your decision-making actually matters, what you do matters, that's where this game is absolutely at its best. And I absolutely loved playing this match. Even if we lost, doesn't matter. I'll take 10 of these kind of games over blowouts any day. Even if I'm winning the blowouts, they're just not as fun. On to some more specific examples of this ship. The flank we're on here, a lot of cruisers here, and that is where Monmouth wants to play. You will be needing to flank enemy ships. Yes, it's nice to have the improved pen angles, but I don't think that's an excuse to not go flanking enemy teams. I think that's just a small benefit you're gaining here. You don't really want to be shooting people that are bow on. You want salvos like that, which are mostly going to happen when people are broadside. Sure, it will surprise some people, the improved pen angles, obviously, they always do, but it's not something that you want to be playing in the middle of the map, behind a typical island that everybody knows to angle to, that kind of thing. You will be needing to get creative with your positioning. It's really nice to have the improved British acceleration, by the way. I haven't mentioned that yet, but it's so useful for dodging incoming fire. You're going to need to get good at that if you want to play this ship while shooting all of your guns. I think that's a really key point here. Yes, you have a large exposed citadel. You have to go very broadside to use all of your guns, but the acceleration and drifting that you can do in this ship, given its size, is kind of absurd, and it helps you to dodge incoming fire incredibly well. At 15 kilometers, it's very easy to even dodge incoming battleship fire. Not multiple, right? That's where we don't want to get caught in crossfires, but even one battleship, it's not too bad to be going at slow speeds, and then you see him fire at your ship. Well, you just accelerate and you're going to be out of the way. Or if he decides to try and lead or try and mind game you a little bit, like I probably would do if I was a battleship shooting at one of these, think, see, this cheeky cruiser thinks he's going to get me by accelerating quickly after I shoot. So then I would shoot for the player to accelerate. You got to be careful of players that will do that. There's quite a few people that are will try that on you, but this acceleration is very, very nice for dodging a lot of that fire. Stalingrads, though, are very tricky to deal with. We will smash them when they're broadside. They will smash us when we are broadside. But a Stalingrad can get a lot more of his damage on target without exposing so much broadside. And that's the real problem here with this ship. When you're getting into some trades against battle cruisers or other cruisers that have this similar level of damage output and pen, it's very scary to go this broadside and shoot all of your guns. I would suggest perhaps staying bow in if you can, or stern in, being very critical and disciplined with your angling. Even at that angle, we took quite a bit of damage there. You really can't get too greedy with this ship. You will get punished. Fortunately, you still get 8 guns facing forward, so it's not that bad to just only bow in situations like that. But ideally, we're looking for scenarios where we're not going to be dealing with that. Broadside Salem at what is essentially 20 kilometers away, right? 19 kilometers away, edge of our gun range. This is something where you really do need really good pen to get consistent sort of citadels out of it, or at least consistent damage out of it. And I'm really noticing the improved shell velocity here over something like Gibraltar or a lot of other ships. They can get quite floaty out to these longer 18, 19 kilometers of range. I didn't find it too difficult to actually get used to the shell flight times here. If we look at 19 kilometers, 11 seconds. Not too bad out to 19. Where Gibraltar, 13.7 seconds out to 19 kilometers. That gets a little tough to actually lead. Now here we have a Minotaur. Last clip I'm going to show you just to show cruiser dispersion, man. It's amazing. We overlead because he's slowing down in smoke, but fortunately we will reload in time. We're not locked onto anything. This is just pure blind fire. And look at the dispersion we got, by the way. Cruiser dispersion is a big upgrade over battlecruiser dispersion. That's 4 citadels and 30,000 damage, blind fire. Poor minnow player, man. Any smoke cruisers these days, man. Everybody blind fires these days. It's not just me, okay? I apologize for doing it and showing it in videos so other people want to do it too, but it's effective. What can I say? I mean, it works. That's a lot of damage for a blind fire, especially without lock on. We got that kind of dispersion. Crazy. But of course, this is a lot of money we're talking about to be spending on a free-to-play game. And again, I do think there are options if you're interested in this playstyle. I think you could look at, well, they are for resources, of course. Gibraltar being a research bureau ship. That is a little bit expensive, especially for newer players. Steel, you get a Stalingrad, for example, also expensive. But Petro is interesting in that it also has some pretty good AP and shell velocity for those cruisers. And this is just a tech tree ship that you can go grind out. Marseille, even though I'm not a big a fan of the inconsistency on those guns, battle cruiser dispersion, you still will be punishing cruisers a lot of the time. Also, I mean, very expensive, but this Monmouth kind of reminds me of a Prince Vanarani a little bit, or PVO. I'm bad with pronunciation. I apologize. But the gun range, the cruiser dispersion, 12 guns, It's pretty comfy, although this one, PVO, has much better firing angles and, of course, has the airstrike gimmick as well. It's got HE. So there are some differences there, certainly. If you're looking for another tech tree option, Castillo, with its burst fire on its AP, can do devastating damage to enemy cruisers. Also has some pretty good detection, so something interesting there. Howden, right? You could also go for the Guden Howden Liu. Again, apologies for pronunciation. Bigger guns, good-ish if dispersion cooperates at dealing with enemy cruisers. So those are ones to look at if you're interested in this ship, and it's just a little too expensive. 30 mil upper belt and deck armor. We have 25 mil bow, and our Citadel armor is not great. 178 millimeters at this tier, especially for this size of ship. That's not particularly well armored, and it juts up here, right? We got a stepped Citadel, we call this, like a stair step, right? And the real problem with this is if you overmatch 30 millimeters, well, if you overmatch 25, obviously you just kind of aim for his bow and you can Citadel him if he's bow in. But otherwise, if you aim for 30, you can kind of aim up and here-ish. You know, some might disperse down here into this Citadel, and if you overmatch 30, suddenly there's this flat portion of 102 millimeters of armor that's very easy to Citadel. Ships like Minotaur are also notorious for this, right? You overmatch 16, which a lot of ships do, and you can get through into this step of the Citadel. Very, very painful thing to have on your ship at closer ranges, and Monmouth will also have to deal with that. So a ship that will take some damage, quite a lot of damage. 30 millimeters of armor is not great these days. It is a large ship as well, obviously. But with that super heal, you can heal back from a lot of that incoming damage. So nice to see there, especially because it heals so much Citadel damage back. I expect a lot of these ships will be taking a lot of Citadel damage given the firing angles here. I was running Cunningham with this kind of build. Nothing too crazy on it. Given the amount of planes and focus, I'm kind of coping here with a AA skill. Not that that really helps you anyway, but we did it anyway. Grease the gears helped with turret traverse. It is a little slow, but manageable, I would say. But here, heavy AP, just a straight DPM upgrade here for 3 points. Really nice. AR, obviously taking Superintendent. This would be your first one, by the way. If you only have a 10-point commander, you would be going either Grease the Gears, Incoming Fire, you know, maybe you do Grease the Gears, Priority Target, Superintendent, Concealment. That would be your first 10 points, or that would be my ideal first 10 points. Then I'd probably spec AR, maybe heavy AP, and then afterwards get top grade. It's hard to activate top grade on this one. You have great concealment, 11.5, really good, especially for the quality of guns we have here. Very, very nice. But you need to have someone on the enemy team within your detection range to actually benefit from this. So maybe I should have gone outnumbered instead, now that I'm thinking about it. Considering we want consistency, accuracy, that kind of thing. That could have been interesting. Flanking with outnumbered. Something I should probably think of a little bit more. Every time I do these builds at the end of some of these ships, I'm like, oh yeah, cruisers, they just get a outnumbered skill for 10% better dispersion when you're outnumbered. That sounds pretty good. Maybe I need to play around with that a little bit more. Upgrades wise, this is what I went with. Nothing too crazy here. I went with engine room protection. I didn't really notice my rudder or engine getting knocked out that much. So maybe that's not necessary, but given that we have a super heal and the fires don't last very long on our ship, damage control isn't really all that necessary. Notice here, we don't take propulsion mod because it's just not offered. The improved British acceleration, it's just baked into the ship. So that means extra maneuverability for us. Still a 10-second rudder, even with steering gears. Double rudder could be kind of funny. What does that get down to, actually? 6 seconds. Okay, maybe a lighthouse Monmouth, right? Because then suddenly we can access top grade a little easier. Okay. No, that'd be a bit of a troll build, but hey, if you're good enough to make it work, all the power to you, honestly. But that is the Monmouth here. We are getting a premium ship coming into the game. Bit of a reskin, but you know, we'll let it slide because it's available for direct purchase. Not even an Admiral pack, although there will be one. You can just buy the ship straight out. I can't believe that's where our standards are at right now, that I have to applaud Wargaming for that, but I will, and I do. Thank you, Wargaming, for offering a ship for direct purchase and not forcing people to gamble on it. If you would have asked me 5-10 10 years ago, if that's what I would be saying, I would have laughed at you. No way. But apparently that's where I'm at now. But let me know what you think. This is the new ship, Monmouth, tier 10. Looks kind of interesting. Although, if you already have Gibraltar, obviously, they're so similar that this is a lot of money to spend on something basically the same. But thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.